Hello, my name is Francis Fox. I'm a trained remote viewer, and all my other psychic skills have been trained and honed and watched and statistically measured, etc. We all come into each of our lifetimes with an intention. And I'm not sure how important our mission was in previous lifetimes, but in this particular lifetime, the time we're living today, it's everything. The energies are very rocky, they're very scattered, they're very unsettling, they can knock you down in 2 seconds flat. But if at your core you have determined that you are going to do your mission, which means what you intended to accomplish in this incarnation to help move the needle on this planet having to do with the cycle that's finishing and the one that's beginning, doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on, whether you're male or female, doesn't matter. Any of those things are not important. It all has to do with you and you and you and you and you within you. So if you haven't yet tried our mantra for aligning with your prosperous mission, you should do it. That is the mantra that has the quickest big deal effect. And I'll say it very quickly right now, but this chat is not going to be about that. The mantra is, please God, help me with my intention to align with my miraculously prosperous mission. We're at a time in which we do not need to be poor. And one of the mistaken messages of that we receive and incorporate when we admire Jesus Christ, as we should, is that you have to be poor if you're going to be spiritual. It's not true. When he lived, having a place to live and food was great. And apparently he was provided that. Now we're going to go on to what's important. Where are we at today? Yesterday, what I sketched for the US was unbelievable. The attempted assassination broke through some kind of lethargy that we had, woke a lot of people up, and actually vitalized us. I'm sure there's certain people were vitalized more than others. In other words, those who would have wanted for the attempted assassination to happen probably weren't vitalized. But from what I can see, a lot of people were vitalized. And it's a very, very good feeling. But that doesn't mean that the problems are over, regardless of how beautiful the sketch was that I did yesterday of the United States energies with the crown chakra open, because what happened to Trump gave us faith that you can be in a really bad predicament. You can still make it. You can still be saved by the bell. And then the root chakra being identified so that we can work on it. All of these great things don't mean that we don't have problems. What it means is that bigger picture, we're really in a very good place. We crossed a line that I think a lot of us weren't sure that we were going to cross. So I sketched you, the collective consciousness of this group, before you came in, and I sketched the United States earlier. Let's do the one with the United States. You're looking at a map, and there's just a lot of spiraling, and that's supposed to be pink, except I don't have a pink pen, so it's lavender, but you have all the spiraling of pink coming off of the United States, which is very good. Some heart energy has been released. And I was thinking about that yesterday when I looked at the sketch I had done. There was nothing about the heart there, but actually at the heart was a third eye. But here we're releasing the energy of love. It's also, the heart has everything to do with connectedness and relationship. The heart, when you have intelligence of the heart, it means your intelligence has to do with how one thing relates to the other. Something happens, okay, that's a fact. But how does it relate to the other things that happened before, that happened at the same time, or happened in the future? Relationships between people and things. Context, it's an intelligence that includes context. The example I always use is, it's not very heart intelligent to construct so many planes and bombs and weapons of mass destruction. Yes, you think you're more powerful, but many years ago, somebody with a bomb strapped to their back showed us that those instruments of war are not really that valid anymore. Because one person with a bomb strapped on their back that's willing to die for what they believe in basically nixes all of that. Intelligence of the heart, if it had been applied, would have told us that building more bombs and airplanes that can deliver them, etc., was not going to make us safer. On the contrary, we're anchoring in an energy of aggression, of needing to be protected via violence, needing to be protected from violence via violence. Intelligence of the heart would have said, that's not the way it goes. This is not what we should be doing. So the United States now is releasing heart energy, which means that a lot of decisions are going to be very, very different. The battle, of course, is going to be between those that have still not done their process and reached the same level of, we call it spiritual development. It has nothing to do with religion. It really has to do with the other dimensions. Anything that's spiritual has to do with the other dimensions. It's neither good nor bad. You can be very spiritual and be a bad person. I don't really know if everything about Rasputin was disinformation or real. But if we believe everything they said about him, then he was very spiritual, not such a great person. So you can be, the people that do black magic are very spiritual. They're very practiced in the other dimensions. Not great people, bad intentions. So spiritual and good, not connected. You need to disconnect those. You need to become spiritual, which means you're operational in the other dimensions where you have a spirit, which is your astral body, which is your emotional body. That creates issues. So anyway, before you came in, I sketched, and we can see that the fire from the earth is reaching up higher, and it's very systematic. It's not going to go back down. And the dolphin said that that was the case. We have the 3 pyramids of protection, but the one closest to us is red. I'll get back to that in a second. Our third eye is very open. This is very important. And for those of you who think that every time you see a sketch of a third eye, that there's a conspiracy going on, you know what? You need to join the conspiracy, if that's what you call it. What it has to do with reaching a level of wisdom and ability to see and to perceive and to understand things that are not even right in front of you. Why would you not want that? Some people are afraid of what they don't understand. If that's the case, then you need to get out there and you need to start studying. You can't just be pointing fingers. A lot of those people are very Catholic, Christian, religious, and they want everything to stay the same. It's not going to stay the same. That's even in the Bible. It's not going to stay the same. It's going to change. So you shouldn't necessarily hop on the bandwagon, but you need to investigate and find out what's going on so that you can make wise choices. So this sketch, I'm going to go back to it. 3 pyramids of protection. The one closest to us is red, which is the fire element. Several days ago, the dolphin said a couple of times, and a lot of people on X said the same thing, that basically it was like, we're going to be in like a before and an after. And that's true. Great stuff will be going on. Also, god-awful things. The dolphin said that violence, basically the doors to violence would be thrown open. Violence, you can only be violent and have murder and all the rest of that if you have an excess of the fire element. This is the first time I have sketched one of the levels of protection in red, which means fire. And today on X, there was a whole section on the side having to do with all the violence that seemed to have been unleashed across the country. That is accurate. People's craziness will now be out and very operational. So let's talk about that a little bit, and then let's go into a mantra for world peace, which basically is going to also bring you peace in your life. I have a regularly scheduled chat on Wednesdays in Spanish, and it's called Ask Francis. And you can ask me anything you want. And I had a man ask me about his daughter, who's a sleepwalker. I don't remember how old she was, I think 11. And I said that today, not before, but today, that is a preamble to becoming a zombie. What is a sleepwalker? What about the people that take those sleeping pills that sleepwalk? I'm not sure that they say use the word sleepwalk in the articles that come out in the newspapers when those people end up having accidents and wake up in the middle of the accident and don't remember having bathed and gotten dressed and gotten to the car to go to work. They don't remember, but they took a particular type of sleeping pill. And that was happening very frequently. It might still be happening. We're not hearing about it. Maybe people got bored. But basically, when you go ahead and you do things and you don't remember, you have an entity inside of you or right next to you that hops in whenever you let down your guard or you go to sleep. And this particular man had an 11-year-old who sleepwalks. And I said, you need to make it your business today to find out everything about how to protect your child so that she cannot be invaded like that. Now, it's obviously not a permanent invasion in the sense that the rest of the time she's fine. But the kind of spirits that are coming in today are the kind that turn people into zombies. And the zombies are not the usual spirits that used to invade, that you could do bad things, such as somebody that I knew that would get drunk and the police stopped him and they tried to slap the police officer. We're talking about a very refined person, but obviously lost her control over her physical vehicle, over her envelope of consciousness. It's the physical body that she's poured into. She lost control over that. And there was another entity that came in and behaved in ways totally contrary to the way she would have behaved. You are going to see more and more and more of that. And you need to make it your business today to pay attention to what was said in the original Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, which is not the Lord's Prayer that you were taught. It doesn't say deliver us from evil. It says, help us to be in the moment, in the present, which means help us not to disassociate. And you know that disassociation in psychology and in therapy is very bad. It creates all the big issues. And practically everybody, if they weren't disassociated, would not have done the bad, ugly, stupid, dumb things that they did. When the man that commits a murder says, I didn't do it, somebody else did it, or a spirit did it, or the devil told me, they were disassociated. And that's why that was able to happen. The people that wake up and say, I don't remember having done that. I mean, I don't remember. You're telling me there's evidence, but I don't remember. That's disassociation. That is in the original Lord's Prayer. In the line that says, deliver us from evil, the original Lord's Prayer does not say, deliver us from evil. You can look it up. And that's one of the issues with religions and translations and overhandling of information and manipulation. Do I think the Lord's Prayer was manipulated? I don't really know. It doesn't matter. We get the Greek version, then it goes into the English, and then it goes into Spanish, but we don't get it directly into English from the Aramaic, and that's a problem. Aramaic, it has a particular sentence or word can have several meanings. But interesting that when it says deliver us from evil, which means we need your help or we're in big trouble, that's not what it says. It says help us to be in the moment. In other words, help us to be in the moment so that we can take care of ourselves, which is totally accurate according to psychology and totally accurate with what it is that I see. So the Lord's Prayer we get makes us a victim needing a superhero to save us. At which time we kind of have to obey that superhero. You can't just call him in. I mean, you have to, superhero is not just going to, there are rules and regulations and what it is that you should do before, during, and after. The original Lord's Prayer doesn't have any of that. It just says, you ask to help to be in the present. Plus it talks about the strings from string theory. Can you believe that? Literally talks about strings and things being tied up. And Pope Francis's favorite virgin says she has a prayer, and her name is the Virgin of the undoers of knots. Okay? And that prayer, all over the place, it's talking about giving. Let me remove whoever it is that I hope that is Elon Musk that's here. That would be so sweet. And Betty is trying to promote something, so let's get her add to block, listen, restream. There we go. So the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic should be studied. It should be all over the place because it empowers human beings. Back to the Pope Francis. He says, no, he didn't say, she's the virgin that he likes, and there's a whole community that follows her in Latin America. That Lord's Prayer is all about getting help for black magic. I read it and I laugh at the number of such nice people that don't believe in that. Well, the current Pope must believe in that. He does, because he's Argentinian. They know all about black magic. I'm not saying that they do it. I'm not accusing them of anything, but they're very sophisticated. Okay? You're here to bless 10 fans of yours? Okay, we're going to get you eliminated from here. Block user on Facebook. Block you on Restream. Thank you. You really need to look at Pope Francis's favorite prayer from the Virgin Undoers of Knots, in Spanish, La Virgen Desatanudos. And you're going to learn a lot, and it's going to make you very uncomfortable to realize how much we have been manipulated. So why am I bringing this up, having to do with the sketch today about us? One of our pyramids of protection is of the fire element, because we're going to have a lot of zombies. They've already started. We're going to have a lot more. And I'll go into the whole thing. You have a physical body, which is your physical envelope of consciousness. When you become a zombie, it's not just any spirit that enters. It's a particular type of spirit. And they never had a physical body. They never had a physical envelope of consciousness. So when you get exited out, or you leave, your consciousness leaves your physical envelope of consciousness, and that galactic spirit comes in, they don't fit right. And that's why when you see the zombies, their arms are hanging and they don't walk right. They have a physical body of a human being that could walk just fine 5 minutes ago. Now all of a sudden they can't walk, and they've got this energy and angle and face, and because what's inside of that envelope of consciousness never had a human envelope of consciousness. It wasn't just a transference of a spirit from one human being to another, which can be done really, really easily. And I've told the story a couple of times, but I'll say it again. There are people that are experts in doing that. They're alive. They have a physical body, but they can put their spirit inside your physical body if it's easy to get you to exit. Many years ago, when I started my therapy process, and I was really not aware of any of these things, and much less the ethics having to do with energy bodies and spirit and all the rest of that, I remember that I had somebody very close to me that was sick. She said, the doctor says I'm really sick. And honestly, I can't work. That's why I went to the doctor. I felt very bad because she really needed to earn a living, and she couldn't earn a living unless she actually showed up to work. So I said, listen, I think I might be able to help you. I said, I think I'm going to put a piece of me inside of you, and you're going to be able to keep going. And she went, well, I said, I have no idea if this is going to work. Well, it did work. And she was able to keep going. And then, I don't know, she got to the specialist a week later, 2 weeks later. And the specialist says, I don't know how you stayed on your feet. She said, but I feel fine. He said, I don't know how you stayed on your feet. She stayed on her feet because part of me was in her. I didn't know until years later that you're not supposed to do that. It's not ethical. And that's why I have such an issue with channeling, with people that channel. It's okay for you to have information from another being that is standing there. But if the person that is delivering information from St. Gabriel, whatever, Mother Teresa, whatever, their face changes and they kind of just sit there like this, And then they give this great information. What is coming inside of them is not a good being, because the good spirits do not enter our bodies, don't enter our physical envelope of consciousness. Okay? I did not know that when I did that. Makes a good story, but I did not know that I wasn't supposed to do that. If I had known that, I wouldn't have done it. You need to find out, starting today, if you don't know already, how you can stay in control of your physical body. See, somebody just complimented me on my necklace. I really never wear it, but I have on my protective labradorite. Why labradorite? Yes, it gets boring wearing it every day, so try to figure out how to hide it and be able to wear something a little bit more distinctive is a chore and a challenge, but it's worth it. Why labradorite? Because labradorite is I believe, the stone that's like almost the heaviest. It's the most earth. What does that have to do with the Lord's Prayer and protection? Earth, protecting, being in the moment, being grounded on earth, being rooted, earth. The element or the medication that's used for people that are bipolar, that really have lost control of their physical envelope of consciousness, their physical body, what worked the best for them, and then they started fooling around with other stuff, was lithium. And I think lithium is like the heaviest of all the elements. If it's not the heaviest, it's one of the heaviest. It makes sense. You're giving the person something that they're missing. You can't have evil if you have enough of the earth element. So it makes sense that the lithium would work. So these are things, I'm just throwing them out there. This is not a class on how to be grounded. What I'm telling you is that today in the news, one of the few sections that are on the side was like violence that had been unleashed in the country, and none of it had anything to do with politics. It was just violence, one human being to another. We're going to be seeing more of that. We're going to be seeing zombies, and we're going to have actually police departments, police stations are going to have departments that will have to do with taking care of that particular issue. When somebody is identified of being a zombie, if somebody's identified as being a zombie, love does not enter the equation. Relationships don't enter. Begging them, crying doesn't enter, because your person is not inside their body any longer. Some other being, a galactic, really bad one, is inside their body. And that is why they can do such god-awful things. So you need to be educated in that. You need to figure out where you want to learn how it is that you stay in control. And the first thing you should do is, you can go to my website and look up the Lord's Prayer. We have it in English and Spanish. The Aramaic version, it's really, honestly, it's shocking to everybody. So I don't know why I'm going to say this that I'm going to say now, but I'm going to say it because that's the way I teach and I talk. An example of our lack of understanding of what spirituality has to do with what is sex, which is such an important subject today. The whole trans thing that is basically driving this country crazy, from what I can see, is supposedly about sex. But most people don't know the definition of the word sex in the dictionary. Means to cut, to divide. But orgasm is spiritual ecstasy. Most people don't know that. And the act of sex is being practiced, that's not the right word, but less and less and less and less. You know how they measure that? By the number of condoms that are sold in a country. And many years ago, when I wrote a book called Sex, the Path to God, the country that was really low man on the totem pole was Japan. And now, via the information that Elon Musk shares on X, Japan is the country that is really struggling. No, they lost the battle. They're not reproducing themselves. So they become very unimportant. And I never understood that. I never understood. So their birth rate is down, okay, but everything continues. No, everything doesn't continue. Because in 10 years, there's no babies, there's no teenagers. The teenagers grew up. There's nobody there to fund the retirement plans. There's nobody there to go to the universities. And in 20 years, you don't have anybody there to fill the jobs. Basically, you're in a state of collapse, and it's known years before. I wrote that book about 10 years ago. And they actually had a classification of men that were the name of, and I forget the name that they had on them, but it was like grass eaters, that they would eat grass. In other words, very non-violent, very non-masculine, not feminine either. Very interesting. And I didn't really understand the importance then about low sales of condoms. Back to St. Teresa. We're in a moment of spiritual expansion. Orgasm is spiritual ecstasy, and it's declining. We're going like in the opposite direction. So there's a lot of things that we need to understand them first, and then we need to see if there's a change that can be made. And one of the things that people don't know, because I haven't put it out there, I'm too busy fighting off the bad guys. I need to do that in a couple of weeks. It's kind of fun. But our homes are attached to our destiny and influence our destiny. And when we make a change in a home, we change our destiny. So our car carries and channels the energy of our sexuality. And I started to get really worried years ago. Everybody had gray cars and decorations at homes and in stores. Everything was gray. Gray is, in terms of the color, what it represents, it means being trapped. I remember many years ago, I saw somebody and he had a gray cloud over him. And I thought, but what does gray mean? I know black, I know green, I know pink, I know yellow. They have to gray. It took me years to figure it out. It means, it represents the feeling of being trapped. And years ago, everybody started to buy gray cars. When they were kind of silver, it would make me happy. But basically, they all went gray. And basically, that's what's happening. It's like a down. Now, we are supposed to be at the end of cycle having to do with human beings physical on the earth. But meanwhile, until we get to that place of transition, which could be next Tuesday, who knows? I mean, it's like it's right here. We're still supposed to be operating, and we're really not operating. In not operating, we have too much fire energy, and we have too many galactic spirits coming in that want a physical vehicle, an envelope of consciousness, in order to be able to function on the physical dimension. Because the trick of the matter is that those invaders, they're great. They know more than we do. Their technology is great. But on the physical dimension, they're not that, then they don't have the vehicle to be able to function. It's like if you have a car, but you want to cross the ocean. That vehicle's not going to work. You can get a Tesla, it'll last a little while, but basically don't cross the ocean or a river in a car. It's not going to work. They come here, they don't have the vehicle for the physical dimension. And that's the dimension, if you're really attached to it and rooted, where they can't function. So it's kind of good they don't have a vehicle, but they can take yours over. I think I've talked too long about zombies, but I found it interesting that that was one of the top news stories today on X. All the violence that seemed to have erupted across the planet. Mariela's saying her car was totaled 2 years ago, and she's using her partner's car, which is white. Sex life, lower. Correct, Mariela. I got myself a red Tesla. I'm actually almost ready to get a Nile green one, which I would have to have it wrapped. Nile green is the color of the heart chakra. And red is the color of movement and also fire, which I think I probably needed in that department. But so look at your car because it will say a lot about you. You don't need to look at condom sales. You'll know that already in your own life. But look at your car. Anyway, Saint Teresa has a statue made of her, which I've showed you a couple of times. And her face is the face of somebody in a state of orgasm. She talks about her spiritual ecstasy, and her description is a description of orgasm. And her description includes the angel that's next to her. And it is very funny. But the important thing to remember, in addition to the fact that most people don't know that orgasm is spiritual ecstasy, is that practically everybody recognizes that statue. I think Bertolini was the sculptor. And they'll go, oh my God, I didn't notice that. You're right. That's an orgasm. Oh my God. And that's what is the case. That's the case in practically everything today. People didn't notice. They didn't realize. It was like, how come I didn't see that? Like somebody, I think I can say it now. I'm not sure. I noticed this years ago. Apple's logo is an apple, but there's a bite taken out of it. Oh, okay. No. Okay, no. What took down the planet according to the Bible? When humans took a bite out of the apple. Oh. 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 Yep. Okay, let's go ahead and let's do a mantra. Let's lighten this up a little bit. But I have to say, I'm a happy camper because of what I sketched yesterday that I showed you. We are in a really good place. I did not think I would be able to say that ever again after the last several years. We are in a really good space. But we're in a really good place, and all around us, there's going to be really bad stuff. So if you keep your vibe, okay, that bad stuff, because of law of attraction, isn't going to affect you. And like I tell my followers that are females, do not send your kids to school full of the fire element. Well, how do I know that? Are they on their cell phone all day long? Do they sleep with the cell phone? Do they play the electronic games? Okay, you need to keep doing that. First place, don't sleep with your cell phone. It almost makes you dumb as a rock. It's microwave. Near your head, come on. Make sure you take them to the beach. Don't take them on vacations where there's a lot of radiation. Throw them outside. Take them to the park. Make all of your lunches and dinners outside if you can. On the weekends, go to picnics, go to the mountains, go to the beach. Because water and earth put out fire. And we have our sacred music by Mateo Cuaron, who is a composer from Mexico that has the tones and the sounds together with the video that puts out fire. And you should have that on 24/7 in your home. And I'm talking at night also. So you can be putting out the fire of the radiation, because nobody's going to give up their Wi-Fi, because we need it and it's an addiction, both things. So let's go ahead and do the mantra for world peace. So give me a second and I will find it. And it's really interesting. I never put Microsoft on this computer. And it seems like maybe it's not such a bad thing that I didn't put Microsoft on this computer. I did not like the way the company that I worked with, which is GoDaddy, I did not like the way they handled the fact that I didn't want to sign up for Microsoft. And I said it to them. I said, I'm afraid of you guys. I think that if I don't say yes to this, you're going to send somebody to my home in the middle of the night. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. I said, well, I don't get it. this is a service. This has to be an option. I have to pay for it. So I did finally get it because I swear to you, I was afraid of them. And then we have this happen, and then you go, ah, I get it. So here's the mantra. You repeat it in silence. And I'm going to show you the images before so that you can know what's changing in you while you're doing this mantra together with the trilling music. Okay? I still have it here. So before you start this mantra and the music, this is a person, a real person. This experiment took 7 minutes. Look at the mind streams hanging, no mantra, no sensory therapy, no music. Then I gave her a mantra, which was for depression. And she was doing the mantra. I sketched her again, but there's no music, okay? And no video. And her mantra was, even though I'm depressed, I love and accept myself. And look how the change, how her mind streams are not so droopy. So she's not feeling so droopy, which has to do with depression. Then I gave her the peace mantra, which is the one you're doing now. Please, God, help me with my intention. Well, it's a little bit different, but it's the same thing. That there be a miraculous solution to the, oh dear, the peace and to the fear and hate. Okay, this is not the same mantra. So I'll go and find this mantra. So she's doing this peace mantra. No music, no images. And look at the changes. No depressed mind streams. Chi has been built up, and she extended the mind streams, and she's got like a little canopy. And then when we turned on the music and the video, she got an extra protection around it. Can you see that? And a bad spirit got left out of her energy field. Plus, from the bottom, she's pulling up more of the energy of earth energy, which has to do with disassociation. So with this mantra, she would be less disassociated, more protected from evil. So let me go and see if I have that exact mantra here. Yes, I do. It's right here. That's interesting. Here it is. Okay. This is the mantra. This is the peace mantra. Okay. Okay. And we'll put the music on. We'll do 10 minutes. With the trilling music. the triangles of protection are green. So the red one got diminished, but everything from the mantra to the music to the images reduces fire. So you eliminated that, which is important. Law of attraction, you'll draw to you fiery people, which today is violence. And then a spiraling of orange energy, which is creativity. It's also sacred energy, which is good. Third eye remained perfect. And then 3 spaceships, which I actually looked for. I thought, I wonder if they're there. Yeah, they're there. And I didn't look for them in the other one. I normally don't look for anything, but I felt like seeing if they were there, and they were there. The fact that I didn't sketch them before doesn't mean that they were not there. So I would like to emphasize again that every place it has been said in all the predictions that this is a time of a great division between people. We're not talking Republicans and Democrats. We're talking about people that are going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Our world is going to be good, but we're going to be for a while right next to incredible violence. So the trick is, how do you live that close to all of that and not let it splatter on you or pull you into? You have to be thoughtful. You have to be protected. And you have to do what the original Lord's Prayer said. You have to be grounded and rooted. You can't spend all your day on the computer. You have to go outside. You got to go to the beach. You got to love trees. You got to hang on to them for dear life. You got to go to the mountains. And you have to stay out of places as much as possible that have a lot of radiations, like shopping centers and the different places that everything is all neon signs and stunning, but radiated. You have to balance it, and we're not living balanced. So you have to come up with a plan. And the plan actually makes it better, because I have to tell you that I was raised under dreadful conditions, and I don't even want to meet the people I went to school with when I was in the secret program as a child in elementary school, etc. We don't want to meet each other. But I got married, had a kind of normal life, and I would have dinner with my husband and other couples, and a lot of times we'd sit around the table, drinking wine and eating dessert and just chatting. And a lot of times people would start talking about their childhood and, remembering. And I remember that the most important memories for all of them were not when their parents took them to Paris or to shopping centers. And there was no Disney at that point. It was when they would go to the countryside, to the beach with their cousins, and they played outside. They were in nature. Those are the memories that they remember. They don't remember the super sophisticated stuff. And that always stuck to me. I didn't have that. Okay, so I didn't have that. It's not the path I chose. But you need to have that. And you need to give that to your kids, because not only is it what sticks with people that they remember with such affection, it's also very good for you, having to do with protection from evil, because evil is invading the planet or waking up on the planet, both, whatever. So that contact with nature is really, really important. Okay? So we'll see you back again. And thank you for joining me.